Why struggle through a post-merger integration when you can glide through it? Why deal with the PMI integration challenges when you can overcome them even before they occur? Why move slow when you can move at pace? What are the world's leading PMI experts doing right now to achieve profit-accelerating integrations? This podcast will give you all the answers to these questions and many more. My name is Dudley Peacock, and welcome to the 100 Days and Beyond podcast. Hello and welcome everyone to our weekly office hours. And today, as usual, we are open to everyone who wants to join us and even ask questions around mergers, acquisitions, post-merger integration work. And I would imagine even things around professional services companies and so on. And I think what's busy happening with these Friday morning sessions and the feedback that I'm getting is more around private equity, merger acquisition firms that are, let's say, sell side, buy side, doing transactional work. Even entities that do support services around mergers and acquisitions. So let me give you an example. So this will be entities that will be that do technology, entities that do technological support around integrations, around mergers and acquisitions, and even technology services around, let's say, the preparation for exit, getting ready for exit and doing exit planning for somebody or a company or an entity that needs to move on. So it could either be a new acquisition. So you could be potentially a person looking to buy a business, and you go out and you start looking for an entity, and you have all these additional professional services. Professional services could include M&A based lawyers, accountants, and other advisors, sell-side advisors, buy-side advisors, the integration specialists. I mean, that's primarily the theme and the topic of our regular podcast, which is the 100 Days and Beyond podcast. You'll find that podcast at the web address. If you want to listen to the audio version of it, the audio version is at 100days.com, 100daysandbeyond.com, sorry. And if you want to see any of the video versions of that, that's on YouTube, that's on Twitch, Facebook, etc., etc. So, I mean, if you want any of those links, you'll find those links available wherever you go. But these Friday morning office hour sessions are dedicated to questions and answers and questions that come up during the week that I get emailed or that I get asked based on the kind of work that I do. So as a fractional CMO or as a fractional CSO, fractional CSO is a chief strategy officer, or a CMO being a chief marketing officer, fractional being part-time. I get to speak to many different types of companies, either at half an hour intervals or hour-long intervals, or even doing workshops or doing larger scale projects. So larger scale projects would be full implementations of whatever it is that needs to be achieved, whatever the objective is that needs to be achieved. These Q&A sessions are all about answering a lot of those questions. And what I'm trying to do is, in the Q&As, trying to say, if I have one or two really good questions, what I want to try and do is focus on those. If I have any comments during the session, or anybody that wants to come online or come online live, you're welcome to. I can share a link with you. You can just pop a comment and I can share a link with you. You can even come in and ask question live. You can do so in the comments. If, depending on where you're watching this live stream, you can watch it in YouTube or any one of the channels, and you can put in any comments over there. If I don't answer it during the session, you're welcome. I'll let you know. I'll respond to you. But in addition to that, what I'll do is potentially bring that up in a future session. There's a comment that I heard, and I thought it's important to maybe address that today as part of today's Q&A, our office hours. Office hours are all about you, and it's about taking your business, your professional services business that's in and around the mergers and acquisitions, post-merger integration work, post-acquisition integration, getting ready for exit, exiting, and even further on, we even often talk to people that do investments, and you might want to invest in further businesses. You might want to partially exit a business and take some money off the table and then reinvest it somewhere else. Often there are questions like, I want to exit the business, give me my money, and now, oh hell, what do I do with my money? Where do I put it? So, I mean, there are so many different questions flying around. Business owners and people that work with businesses, especially in the mid-market category. We're also looking at PLCs that try to do, not try to, but actually get it right, but focus on doing things like separations, entities that focus on carve-outs, that's taking a portion of an entity, or even doing regulatory-based separation. So where regulations come in within a country or a jurisdiction which doesn't allow the size or the entity, or maybe there's a conflict of interest. We've seen that with accounting and consulting firms that needed to split, as a very broad-based example. A lot of professional services firms that support the M&A industry. We look at guys or girls, but we're looking at entities that will be something like people that do valuations, people that work with turnarounds or stressed or distressed companies, or even individuals that will be coaching or mentoring stressed and I would say under pressure owner managers, directors. Even if you look at sometimes the chairperson or is the chair of the company, could be even the major shareholder, looking for legacy based continuation of the wealth that's been created. So we also look within these Q&A sessions at family offices, the creation of family offices, the discussions around the creation of family offices, and why it's so important to look at family office as a vehicle, instead of leaving a will and testament that divides up your wealth, when you've moved on, but rather looking at setting up a family office that can continue long after you've completed your own journey, and you want to pass it on to further generations. I've got access to experts across multiple fields, all the way from HR, the human resources side, all the way through to family office experts, legal, accounting, valuation experts. I think, if we look at these, I think, and you combine that with all the different podcasts. So our podcasts include the 100daysandbeyond.com, which is very much focused on the mergers and acquisitions side of things, where we look at post-merger integration or post-acquisition integration, practitioners and all those affected by it, even companies or employees that have been targets of these acquisitions, or even targets of separations and carve-outs and so on. So, I mean, which is almost the opposite of an integration, where you're bringing companies together. A merge integration, where you're looking at separating entities. Then there's a whole new set of skills required there, although it's business acumen across the board. The topic I want to cover today, and I think this is a massive topic, especially for founder owners, founder managers, of entities that end up scaling and growing and developing their businesses, and very much in the community that this particular podcast or this particular session is dedicated to, on a Friday morning, 9 a.m. At British time, UK time. So it's either GMT during winter or GMT +1 or British summertime, as they call it. Now we're doing British summertime up until another 2 months or so, and then we'll switch over to an hour earlier. But 9 a.m. on a Friday morning, this is who this podcast is dedicated to: the professional services community and professional services businesses. Now, often professional services businesses are founded and are run and are developed by individuals who are highly educated, highly skilled, have got potentially long careers behind them already. They already have 15, 20, 25 years of experience. They often form a partnership. It's either themselves or a partnership or a group of individuals that come together for a particular reason, and to create a professional services entity that delivers services and combined their experience, their skills, their education, their networks, create this professional services entity that can deliver. Many professional services entities, it doesn't matter what type, often have this core set of individuals, or one core individual with a few support people, admin staff, etc., back office staff, but also do a lot of outsourcing. So they will, if there's a specific project that comes up, they might bring in additional resources of other highly skilled individuals, but for very, very specific purposes. So this session is built specifically. This I would say questions and answers, office hours every Friday is built on how to start, grow, develop, and exit your professional services firm. I've seen so many professional services firms that grow and develop, rely heavily on the owner. We're even looking at marketing entities, the Marcom industry, where it's very people orientated. You have someone that's incredibly passionate about what they do, and they build this entity that's lined with a lot of assistant people, but not necessarily lined with leaders that can take on the journey past the exit of the founder or the start the starter of the entity. I want to address this one particular issue, and the reason why I've taken so long to introduce it is because I want to make sure that the correct audience is listening to this, and this is a massive takeaway, and it's something that I ponder regularly, and that is I heard, and this doesn't come from me, and I can't recall where I heard this, but it goes something like, the thing, the activity, the task, or the passion that you started with often becomes your cap or your ceiling to your growth. Now, let me just rephrase that. So the thing that got you started is the thing that gets you stopped at the end and gets you stops you from growing. So if you are a really, really good, let's call it a merger and acquisition based integration specialist, and you are very, very good at integrations, and you decide to start your own professional services firm, you might have a few friends, and you might have a few colleagues, you form a firm, you might have outsourced work and so on. But that one thing that you are so massively passionate about, you go out and you get clients and so on, and before you know it, besides the feast and famine, in other words, you get clients, you work hard, the projects finish, you finish off, and then the revenue dries up, or when the clients dry up, you need to go out and fetch new clients. You then start that whole cycle again. You go out, you find clients, and then off you go and you do projects and you stop your sales and marketing, do the work, and then it just is a continuous process. And if you think about what the topic of today, the topic of today is really about that thing that got you passionate about starting the business. I mean, even if you're good at baking cakes or making pies or whatever it is, and you go and you start yourself a bakery, baking cakes all day starts becoming very, very difficult because now you're baking much higher volumes. You are the passion, that love tends to start to dissipate, but also the fact that you're starting to get many, many more clients. So you are struggling to share the time across more and more and more clients. So when you're looking at professional services company, the thing that got you started becomes the ceiling to your growth, becomes the top at which you can operate. The difficulty with the professional services business is that once you've reached that cap, that scaling, that move up into the next level in terms of making this entity that you've created, this baby, this special entity, or let's call it movement, with a whole lot of happy clients, for instance, there's a time when you can't go past that. And that time comes when you are at capacity and you cannot find additional resources to take over or add to the management or the growth of the business. So the topic for today is really much more around that thing that got you started becomes the ceiling to your growth and development later on. So how do you overcome that? And that is the most difficult thing, because when you are starting out, your biggest worry, I would say, concern, is to generate new clients. So as a new private equity firm, as a new, let's call it a newly molded integration specialist, or any professional services firm, you may leave corporate world, you may come out of a different company and you were an employee, or you just decided to go into this particular field. You then start, and the first big task would be to get a new client. So you go out and get a new client. Then you've got a client and you start doing your work and you start building out your, let's call it, your tools and your method of delivery. Then you start realizing that it's, if you come from corporate, that, for instance, a lot of the things that were taken care of by other people and other systems and processes, you no longer have. So you now need to set these up, and then you set these up in sometimes a haphazard way, and you try to do patchwork and so on. And you get to this point where it's sort of working for you and you're able to deliver work to create happy clients, but you can do that at a very, very small scale. The issue then starts coming where you say, okay, maybe if I bring in a partner and that person can then help me expand the business. So like if you had yourself, adding one person would double the revenue. I mean, that would mathematically make sense. But unfortunately, the time now of aligning yourself with someone else, that time it takes starts to consume a lot of your work time. It could be you bring someone in, they do the sales marketing, you do the delivery, or vice versa. That might work a little better. Or you might bring in other partners to take care of more of the back office work, and you do front and so on. But there comes a time when you can only take on that many partners or that amount of employees, and then it starts to creak again, because nobody generates more revenue than the owner or founder in many of the businesses that I've seen. In fact, probably the bulk. The owners, the founders, the drivers of the business, they are the ones that bring in the most money, even if they employ salespeople, even if they employ marketing people. The owner or founder tends to bring in double, triple, quadruple, sometimes even 5, 6, 7 times the amount that an employee can bring in terms of revenue, then that person still needs to go out and deliver. So when you start your entity, the passion that got you to start becomes the ceiling, the end at which you can grow. So it becomes that you can generate new clients, you can get a whole lot of helpers, maybe a few systems and processes around you, but then you stuck at your maximum capacity. Now, how do you scale? Now, the scaling journey is very, very difficult, and it really does need assistance from the outside. You do need to get to speak to a mentor or a coach or some business development specialist, like myself, to come in and sit on the outside and help you think out the steps that you need to take. And some of those steps are painful. One immediate step that comes to mind that's incredibly painful is that one of letting go, that one of saying, I now no longer deliver the work. I now no longer do go in and see the clients. I mean, just going from everything is about you and delivering the work to nothing about you is delivering the work. A big shift. Then the other shifts that need to start happening is what many professional services businesses owners forget is a lot of the things that they have developed and know instinctively themselves, that becomes incredibly difficult to pass on to someone else. Now, how do you do that? What's the best way to do that? You must, and I think this is also the one of the biggest problems is that most drivers or the owners or partners of professional services firms have much higher work rates. They tend to do 4, 5, or 6 jobs, if you like, within an entity. And when they're looking for someone to replace them, they look for someone else with that high level of ability and skill to take on 5 or 6 or 7 jobs. One of the big tasks that you have and the difficulty is to say, okay, if I sit back and you need someone from the outside to help you, to break it down into the bite-sized chunks of the jobs to be done, the pieces of work that you do on a daily basis, those crucial portions that you take for granted, that you do with by instinct, or sometimes you might be doing it 12 o'clock at night because you don't have time during the day. Sometimes you might be working weekends because during the week you're too busy serving clients. So what are those jobs? What are those component parts? And then it's then to start saying, okay, how do I then get someone else or something else to take that work on? What do I do to take to get someone to take that work on? And taking that work on is important in the sense that if you don't do it, you'll continue being stuck in that cycle. So one is let go. 2 is look at your entire business, look at your entire workday, look at it, your entire elements of work, and say which are the ones that are, let's call it, the elements of things that you do that give you the least amount of return but require the highest amount of input. In other words, what problem you may have is that some tasks that you are doing could be incredibly menial and could quite easily be passed on to someone else. And I think that's the trick. The trick is to decide on what the entire landscape looks like. Look, it takes a bit of work, and you need to remodel it every now and then. But you take the portions that are the easiest to hand off. So quick wins, quick wins, quick wins. So you try and win as quick as possible, handing off the portions that you can, that you don't like doing, that you're not passionate about, that probably somebody could probably do it quicker and better than you. You can outsource that, you can bring in other employees, and you can do other things, but you need to be very clear about what those are. And only once you're clear about what they are, and you've broken those down into individual component parts, then can you build up a job description and even a procedure, a work procedure. And only once you understand what that job entails and how long that job will take, let's say the people qualified for that job, not you, but the person or people that are available to employ, or the systems that are available to install and implement, that what they can take out of that and what they can realistically do for what you realistically are able to and willing to pay for that portion to be taken off your shoulders. So it's let's call it building blocks, but it's almost, they talk about death by 1,000 paper cuts. This is healing those 1,000 paper cuts. This is actually starting to build up elements that are starting to remove those low return, high effort, high mental or physical energy draining tasks, passing them on to other people, or building systems to do it, to automate those processes, or to rather get a piece of software to do it, or to bring in outside help in terms of even a virtual assistant or a full-time employee, but to start breaking it down. So number one is decide to let go. Number two is to break it down into component parts. And then number three is to systematically start doing that. Now, I know it's going to take time. So therefore, it's the easiest thing is don't think first of trying to do it all yourself. If you bring in someone from the outside and they assist you to map this process out, in fact, they might even do the mapping for you. Your first person that you need to take on is an individual that will help you map it, but will help you actually find those people to bring into the organization for those particular tasks, not to find the first person to take over the first task. Why? Because it's incredibly difficult to not only just map it out, because you're in the trenches. So often when you're very, very close to the situation, it's very, very difficult to see what's right in front of you. So you bring someone else in, they map it out, and then what's really powerful is that the first person you take on and employ to help you systemize your business is the first person you take on is someone that will help you find those other people to build out those job descriptions and business processes, and then to help onboard those people on your behalf. That will be your first hire. So let's go through the steps of scaling, growing, and developing your professional services businesses. Number one, you got to decide to let go. Number two, you got to go through a process of breaking down. And as an owner, founder of a professional services business, you're going to be doing 5 or 6, 7 jobs on your own in any case. So you got to say, it's impossible to hire another Superman like me, another super person like me that can do all these things. I need to break it down into component parts, and I need to say, okay, what parts are the low return, high energy sapping, high time consuming tasks, and I need to start getting that out. Number three is to get someone in to help you do that, to help you map it out. But also that person needs to help you find, recruit, replace, and onboard those people. And there is a system where that person's actually got a name or a title, let's call it a role, and that is one of that they call an integrator, or a person that is sort of your second in charge, or your do it person, the person that gets things done, like a strong admin related, strong driving person. That person then will help you build your team around you. And the idea then is that you then have one less worry to worry about, which is to build out your business. You can continue going dealing with your customers, dealing with your clients, doing really, really good work, but bringing in external resources to do those hires, onboarding, mapping out the jobs, and so on. So let's just go through those 3 steps again. Number 1 is decide to let go if you want to scale. And I think just to remind the audience, whoever's joined us over the last few minutes, today's topic, we're talking about the main topic is something that I heard, which I think is it's regularly on my mind, and that is the thing that got you started in business in the first place becomes your limiting factor, becomes the ceiling, becomes the thing that stops you from growing. So if you're really, really good at integrations, you're really, really good at valuations, you're good at accounting, law, you're good at any kind of professional services business, you've left corporate, you've started a professional services business, you've got 10, 20, 30, 40 years worth of experience, you got a network and all that, and you think, wow, this is brilliant. It's a bit like being a baker or a pie maker. You say, look, I can make cakes, I'm going to start a bakery. You end up baking all day, and all of a sudden you realize that somebody needs to be standing at the till selling. Somebody needs to be doing, being in the front of the shop. Someone needs to order supplies. Somebody needs to do this, that, the next thing. Someone needs to maintain the ovens, etc., etc. It's the same thing with a professional services business. The thing that you love and enjoy, the thing that got you started, is the thing that holds you back later on. So how do you get out of that? Is number 1 is to decide, I'm no longer going to be the thing that holds me back. In other words, I need to stop being the person that delivers the work. I now need to be the person that organizes and manages the strategy and the vision for the company, and start handing over in these different component parts. Number 2 is to break it down into different component parts, because realizing that as a business owner, you are actually sometimes like a super person, multiple jobs, able to do multiple things, working long hours, often weekends, nights, to do those jobs and those tasks that need to be done to run a business. And then there's also the feast and famine. You get the clients, you do the work, your sales and marketing stops, and you have this dip. And all of a sudden, you don't have clients, you don't have work to do. You run out there, you shake up your network, get the marketing going, get a few clients on board, and you're back into earning revenue, but your sales and marketing stops. I mean, that's feast and famine cycle is just common across professional services businesses. And then we get number 3. So number 1 is make the decision. Number 2, break it down. Number 3 is, instead of you trying to implement the actual recruitment, onboarding, and putting together those business processes and things, get someone else to do it. That should be your first next hire, is the scaling person, the person that helps you take your vision of taking your company, professional services company, to the next level. So you need to have that person in place. Then once you understand what those menial tasks are that are draining you, that you can then hand out, you get that person on board and you start implementing. And slowly but surely you get rid of the lowest hanging fruits. In other words, using that cliche, but really get the easiest ones that are the ones that are most draining. Get that off your plate. Get more and more off your plate. You'll find that you are able to concentrate better, deliver better, but you'll also find that that you're able to deliver higher quality service to your clients at that point. Then the biggest, one of the biggest ones then is to start looking at marketing and lead generation and putting systems in place, processes in place. And I highly recommend a lot of the tools out there. We've got a really great tool that I can talk to you about if you want to go offline on this, but it's to put automated tools. So things like automated calendar bookings and automated two-way communications and automated emails and automated ways of dealing with your accounts and invoicing and so on, so that when someone signs up an agreement, it's all done electronically. You don't go and have to take a Word document and fill things out. I use a software called PandaDoc. which is connected to the CRM that I use. And we are literally that once somebody signs up, it literally triggers out. It takes all the fields, the name, address, telephone number, puts that into a document, sends it out. All of that happens without me touching. It goes out to the client. The client gets the opportunity to make comments and notes. I can have a quick review. If we're both happy, we sign up, and off we go. They sign, I sign, and it gets stored electronically, and everyone can view it at any time. But in addition to that, there are reminders and there's all kinds of things that go on that I don't need to be chasing when it comes to setting up appointments, doing onboarding of new clients. A really good way for a professional services firm, and this is one of the steps that I'm going to recommend as well, is to start recording, video recording, to start creating mini courses of all the onboarding things that you would normally do to bring a new client into your world. So in other words, all the introductory things of who the staff are. Maybe you could have your team introducing themselves by video, and those a small set of 1, 2, 3 minute videos with the team introducing themselves. Maybe you got 4 or 5 people. Instead of creating, let's call it a sort of meet and greet or onboarding meeting when a project starts, send out these video clips in a communication, or you create a communication portal where when a new client signs on, there's an immediate private thing. I mean, there's Teams to a certain extent does it, but there's actually better software out there, very, very cheap software, and often very free, where you could build out different channels and threads and so on, and you can dedicate certain channels to your new clients, so that there's one place where all communications are kept. One of the biggest scourges in our world, I think, is email. Email coming in at 100 miles an hour, hundreds of emails. How much time do you spend and waste on trying to filter through emails, which ones to do, which ones not to do, which ones to do now, which ones to do later? If your tasks and everything are all kept in one single place as a professional service delivery person, your staff, your people that are helping you for that project, all contribute to one single place. There's a thread. There are different issues that are being resolved in their own threads. There's an overall company communication outbound. There's inbound questions and answers. But the onboarding process can easily be videoed, as in, these are the principles we use. This is the process we're going to follow. This is a map of the journey we're going to take. It could either be done on a individual unique basis, which I do a lot of, or sometimes you can have repeatable or your generic type of maps as well, which you share with your new clients. What does that do? It could easily save you 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 hours worth of work by setting out a sequence of educating and onboarding your new clients. So by the time you get to, let's say, workshop 1, where you're doing the full scoping or needs analysis or whatever it is that you do as a professional services person, you can quite easily now have benefited from them getting to know you, your processes, and so on, without you having to do that same repeat process again and again. If there's something in my 28, 29-year career that has driven me absolutely nuts, and that is that every new client I get, every new sales meeting I have to go and repeat the same information again and again, in terms of what do you do, how does it work, how much does it cost, what do we do first, who do you need to have involved in a project like this? All those standard questions, many of those are what we call frequently asked questions. How brilliant would it be to take that as a mini project for yourself? Obviously, you'll have your helper or your integrator, if you like, that'll help you do that, but build a library of onboarding. Build a library in terms of bringing on new clients? What about during the life of a project? What about there will be certain instances where, again, you can have generic, you could have asynchronous. This thing where we have to have let's call it a Zoom or a Teams meeting, we both have to be there at the same time, could be incredibly limiting and slowing down delivery. Why? Because we have to coordinate our calendars. If I can record a message on video or so on, I don't have to spend an hour typing out an email. It takes 3 minutes to make a 3-minute video. But 3 minutes of communication would have taken me maybe a half an hour to type out an email. Video communication is incredibly powerful. So if there's a meeting that was had, you could use video to recap maybe, or to summarize what was discussed and the next steps. Or if there's a meeting coming up, you could do a video recording of what's coming up in the meeting, or what the expectations are and what the agenda is. Again, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Saves you from writing endless hours of preparation work and so on. Non-disclosure agreements. I mean, geez, we get those non-disclosure agreements all the time. Why not automate that? Why must there be a process of send, receive, wait, chase? We can't have the meeting. The NDA hasn't been signed, or NDA has been signed by 3 out of the 4 people. We're waiting for person 4. Oh, but they've got COVID. Oh, they're traveling. They can't do it right now. Now the whole process stops. There's just so many small things that you can automate, you can record, you can build yourself a system, but it's got to be deliberate, and it's not going to be easy. So the premise that this whole conversation started was that thing that got you started in the beginning of your professional services career, your business that you've started, that talent, that uniqueness that you brought to your clients is great in the beginning, but it becomes your Achilles heel, becomes your ceiling to growth the longer you carry on. And the idea is to as quick as possible to start removing that from you. So premise is, what got you started will get you stuck. That's the one thing, and it sits on the top of my mind nonstop when I speak to professional services entities. Number one, let's just recap that. So number one thing to do is decide that you are no longer going to do client work. Very tough decision. Why? Because that's the thing why you got into business in the first place. But realizing that if you do want to scale and grow, you cannot be doing the work. You've got to be stepping back, and you've got to be the visionary. Number two is to break it down into component parts, and then start. Your first hire would be someone to help you implement those, to breaking it down and to implementing the actual hiring, onboarding, and bringing on board and systemizing those people, all those systems work. Okay, so now you're breaking it down, you're freeing yourself up, and eventually you will get the right people in place to actually end up doing the work. But that's a process. That's something that is a growth process, a scaling process. Not easy to do. There are small things that you can be doing to speed things up. But if I could just put a warning on the label in terms of a caution, just do this and have this philosophy of one win a day. If I could just do one small thing every day to take my business to become more automated and to release me. In other words, the philosophy should be, as a professional services business owner, whether it's mergers, acquisitions with private equity, whether it's doing integration work or law or accounting or whatever professional service business you're in, it's to work yourself out of a job. The biggest premise or the philosophy that you should have is to work yourself out of a job. How would you do that? You need to be making sure that there are people everywhere. There are systems everywhere. There's processes everywhere where across the business, where the business actually delivers. Some things can be completely outsourced. Some things can be partially outsourced. Some things can be systemized in terms of software and so on. And some things must be done by people and so on. So if you want to scale, That's great, and that will be the one. But then there could be a question: why would I want to scale? And a professional services business is incredibly difficult to sell, to exit, to get your money off the table. I've seen architects, I've seen lawyers, accountants retire poor. They've had a brilliant, let's call it career in terms of cash flow. The nice thing about a professional service business, great for cash flow. You can earn high fees. It's a lifestyle type of business. You can earn good money, and I liken a professional services business to a little bit like a heroin addict. That next bit of revenue, the next client that comes on board is like that next heroin hit, and you're just looking for like the next hit, the next hit, the next hit, like an addict. The problem with an addict, that is, an addict eventually dies from their addiction. And if you're not able to get into rehab, if you like, and remove that addiction to those hits of the next client, the next project, if you can't get rid of that addiction, you're in trouble. You're going to retire poor. You are not going to be able to sell your business. And if you do, you're going to get a pittance for it. So one of the main reasons for anybody, I think, that's in professional services to build out their professional services business properly would be to think about exit. What do I leave my family? What do I retire on? What do I do once I can no longer work? Because the difficulty about human beings is that we're biological. We start off young, full of energy. We have massive work rates. We take on risks, etc., etc. As we get older, the energy levels start to drop. Although our experience increases, so we can do things better, faster, but with lower energy, and so on. And then there comes a time when we can really no longer maintain the pace, or we don't want to. We lose the passion for our jobs, our work, our careers, the thing that got us started. You would want to exit. You would want to exit at the best possible place. You want to exit and you want to be proud that you've left behind something of value, but you've also taken money off the table for the next phase of your life. If you're building professional service to grow and exit, that's another thing as well. That can also be done. But that is the difficulty with professional services business. So if you are looking to run and start, grow, and exit, and develop value in your professional service business, that is the core recipe from what I've seen out there. This was today's office hours. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Really massively appreciate all the questions and all the good wishes and that coming across all the various platforms. I do get emails and questions during the course of the week. You're welcome to email me. You're welcome to communicate with me, private message me, etc. I get a lot of those. Or comment. Please like and subscribe and comment and all that kind of thing on any of the platforms that you're on. If you'd like to be interviewed as a professional service individual on this show or on one of the podcasts, remember I've got 3 podcasts. I've got one dedicated to M&A or mergers and acquisition, integration specialists, and people around in that space. I also have a podcast that focuses on the work stream of M&A work, but that the marketing, sales and marketing side, building up and growing sales and marketing departments and the assets that you buy. If you look at a platform business, you would want that platform business to grow and scale. Putting in the correct sales and marketing is very, very important. And also growing and developing your professional services business. What do you need? What toolkit do you need, and what support do you need from a sales and marketing point of view to get rid of that feast and famine? That's that other segment that we're talking about, the second podcast. And the third podcast that I do, and that is the ERP and BMS. I call it the sort of the diesel engine side of the software industry. That's the stuff that gets the debits and credits, the invoices, the supplier processing, the warehouse management, the e-commerce, the CRM stuff, all the way down into the deliveries and fulfillment software, and I mean, you name it. All the diesel engine stuff that nobody really likes to talk about, the grind stuff that would need to be done to get your invoices out, to get your bank reconciled, to get the integrations done across departments, from operations through to finance, through to sales and marketing, and making sure your business delivers properly. And I'm talking here about large-scale manufacturing firms. I'm talking about firms that do big projects, so like project management software, firms that have big field service staff or teams out there. That's also what we cover in that podcast. So we've got those three: M&A, PMI, post-merger integration, FCMO, fractional CMO, or marketing based podcast, and then the last one is your technology. Thank you very, very much for joining me again today. Fridays is a great time just to recap, to rethink about your week. Every Friday, I'm going to come up with the next tip about growing and developing your professional services business. I think the professional service business as a business model is incredibly brilliant. It provides a fantastic lifestyle for those people that are in it. However, there is the danger of running out of life and running out of time before you can build wealth. And unless you're investing huge chunks or huge sums of your monthly revenue into big investments external from your current business, your professional services business, you will run into trouble later on. You will exit at nowhere near you in the space you want to exit. Okay, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week, Friday at 9 a.m. British summertime for now. All the best. Speak soon. Hi everybody, this is Dudley again, and if you need help with a future or existing post-merger integration, I want to invite you to arrange a free, no obligation meeting with us. During the meeting, we'll find out exactly what you need, what your challenges are, and we'll explain how our unique PMI slipstream method can help you. Simply call us or visit mergerintegration.co.uk. That's mergerintegration.co.uk, or come to our website, skillfulpursuit.com.